to switch gears for a hot second. And maybe this is going to be like a little bit more of a rant than it really needs to be. So, I think it's on Instagram. There's a woman called the Dadvocate, and she does a lot of like really great stuff addressing some of the like just the toxicity that women and some men share about men in general. And in this one video, it was actually more about like parents. It was like, oh, like moms saying that like, oh, like this is what I'm going to do, basically like ignoring if a girl lays hands on her son, if her son does something like another girl's picture on Instagram or whatever, when when their son gets older or whatever. And then it was like, oh, like what happens if the roles were reversed? And like the men started doing videos like that, like, oh, I'm just going to mind my own business. If my daughter's boyfriend hits her because she's paying attention to other men, and there's like all of this support in the comments, like, yeah, that's right, blah 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 blah. And the advocate was pointing this out because she's like, this is ridiculous. Like this whole thing in general is ridiculous. Like endorsing somebody like abusing your child, even if they did something wrong, is like wrong, right? And my response to this at first was like, yo, like somebody lays hands on my son, like I'm like, they're catching these hands too. But then I thought about it a little bit more and I was like, you know what? My hope is that I would raise my son to be more respectful and healthy in a relationship, and to also see some red flags in other people. But mistakes get made, right? Sometimes things happen. I feel like what I would want to do, without being like the meddling mom, is just sit them down and talk about it, right? Like, hey, like first of all, you lay hands on my son, that's the end. Like I'm gonna advise my son not to continue to be with you. However, if you're to the point where you're laying hands on my son or you're laying hands on my daughter, we need to have a conversation that maybe no adult has ever had with you before, about how to interact appropriately in a relationship when you are upset with something. Laying hands on somebody is never appropriate. That's abuse, and it's wrong. Because if you're going to lay hands on your significant other, who is to say that you're not going to lay hands on your child? And so, like, that's kind of a conversation that I would feel like I would need to have with them. And so I kind of want to encourage people, like, I guess it's done in good fun, maybe, these videos, but like, it's often ignorant, honestly. And it just kind of perpetuates more of this, like, us versus them, kind of like double standard kind of thing. And like, it's just really disgusting how people can turn the other way and like ignore that like their kid is being like abused in a relationship, even if they did something wrong. And that other people are endorsing that as well. So I just had to rant, I guess, about that a little bit and encourage you to maybe be a little bit better for the sake of the future generations.